Welcome in. It is day 133, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And we're doing a little bit of a different setup today. We've backed up a bit with our new camera and our new ring light. I've gotten in some new mics that are going to be wireless. Hopefully, this is our first video. It's going to come out way better audio for everybody. And we're just going to try this out and see how it works. Fingers crossed, this is going to be a really nice, good new setup, and everybody's going to like it, and we'll continue to shoot it this way. Well, for day 133, we're going to be going into a classic game. Now, I think of it as, you're going to hear this term in a lot of board game channels, a modern classic. This is definitely one of those games that when you think of what game should I introduce to a family member or a friend that is going to surprise them, that's going to be easy enough for them to learn, but have enough of a game to it that they're going to want to keep learning new games. That game is Carcassonne. Now, Carcassonne is a tile placement game. You do have meeples, and the concept of the game is, one by one, going around the board, you place out your different tiles. As you do this, you get the option to go place out with it a meeple. The meeples get to score based on the different types of things you can find within these regions. You could be going for a road, which means whenever a road has a crossroads at the beginning and the end, you score for every piece of road per tile. So if you have, the road can curve, it can go into multiple areas, but basically the total tiles. So if you start here with the crossroads, you go here, there's 4 tiles that connect all the roads, 4 tiles are 4 points. You also have monasteries. That's going to score based on each of the different types of scoring that are around it, so potentially 8 points. You've got your cities, which are going to be, technically, should only have one person in it, one knight. However, because you can connect cities, you might find that you end up having multiple knights, at which point it comes to who has the most knights. You're going to score the points to whoever has the most, or if there's a tie, both players get to score them. And this includes if you find any banners in it. It's 2 points per banner. You're going to keep on doing this until the final tile is placed, at which point the game comes to a conclusion, you count up your points, and you see who wins. It's a really fun game. And for me, when I really started to launch myself into that next level of gaming, this was one of those early games. I back about 12, 13 years ago now, really started getting into those Catans and your Ticket to Rides. And Carcassonne was one of those early games. I picked it up. It was not a huge one with my initial friends, but my wife and I loved it. It was one of our 3 or 4 big play games. And it stuck around for quite a while until we both kind of pushed to a little bit of a higher level as a couple. She's not on the same level as me as far as her interest in the variety of games and the complexity of games, but she definitely is very good at gaming and had pushed to another level to a point where we made the decision to kind of push this to the side as we got into more games like Five Tribes. That being said, why don't we jump into this game and talk about our 7 categories. I like the art on this game. This is a nice box. Yes, today, if you were to have a game come out and it was this particular art style, maybe it wouldn't grab the eye as much. But at the time it came out, it was really good. And because it's a known game, it still does grab the eye enough. And then you see the name Carcassonne and people know they want it. And then when you pull out the actual game, I prefer the inside art on the pieces over the art on the box. Specifically just basically the people. There's no people on your pieces. There's no people on these tiles. And I find that the people, for me, while it's not a bad art, is the weak art. Whereas the building art is so cool. I love the roads. I love the cities. I love the rivers. That's the successful art. So it's a big thumbs up there. Your components are, you really only have 2 components, the tiles and the meeples. You got wood, you got cardboard. Both of them are top quality. It's a giant thumbs up. I mean, they hit what you're supposed to hit. Price. So this game comes down to a couple things. One is your availability. This is going to be available everywhere. If you go to a board game store, they're going to have Carcassonne. Yeah, it should be a 5 out of 5 for availability in a board game store. I'll say 4 out of 5 to be safe, but if it's a legit board game store, it should have it. If it doesn't, then you're probably not looking at a huge game store. That being said, when it comes to going to your Barnes and Nobles and your Targets, I would say Barnes and Noble, this used to be always there. I think you're going to still find it occasionally, but they don't have a lot in stock because they've expanded a bunch. Same thing kind of goes for Target. I don't know that I see this at Target, and I feel like at one point I did. Target has just upped their game again, putting in an all new stock of the higher level games. Really, letting people know we're going to be being a game store as far as they keep a big supply. But I don't see Carcassonne there ever. The game itself only goes for about 40. It's a pretty cheap game. You're getting a lot of game in your box. I think it's a really great game for its price. It's a big thumbs up. Your difficulty. So, is this game difficult? No, it is not difficult. It is a fantastic game for kids. It's a great game for beginners. For your experienced players, I still think this is an extremely good game. When my wife and I were playing, I was definitely at that region of very experienced, and I loved it. I still love it, even though I'm now at what I would consider to be an expert level play. Having played at least in a weekly game for over 10 years, having a collection of over 300 games, I definitely consider myself to be that expert level where I can play almost any game and pick it up pretty quick, and where my variety allows me to understand lots of mechanics. That being said, I can still play this game. It may not be one I jump at, but it's one I enjoy. So I'm going to give that a thumbs up. Replayability. So this comes down to that idea of who are you talking about? Are you talking about the kids or the beginners? I think for them, this is a game that you'll play multiple times in a row and you can easily play weekly. When you get to your experienced players, you may not play this multiple times in a row anymore, but it's still easily a weekly game with like family or friends that you see who aren't bigger gamers. And at expert level, yes, it dies out a bit. For me, it has only been played once or twice in the last few years. But I still think that it's a game with value. You want it in your collection because it's gonna be able to help out when it comes to playing with those family or friends that aren't bigger gamers. And depending on the collection size you have, even as an expert, it could still get to your table a lot. So it's a thumbs up because it hits 3 of those categories strong, and one of those categories enough. Your keys to victory. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of ways to score points. So it's kind of on you. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to work on building the city yourself and make a huge one? Are you trying to hit little cities all over? Are you trying to stay in the fields? Are you trying to make roads? Are you trying to make monasteries? Are you building it? Or are you kind of messing with other stuff and trying to capitalize and snake in on somebody else's stuff? Somebody might be putting together a huge building, and you go, okay, I've put myself over here and I just need to make sure at the right time to combine it with theirs so I can get in there on the points. If you can pull that off, that's huge. There are ways to victory, and because it's tile placement, you never know how that puzzle is kind of come out. So while I do think that you can definitely push for the same strategies on a repetitively basis, you have opportunity there. I also think that there's a high chance that when you're doing this, you're going to have kind of that rando factor where sometimes a strategy will be stronger or weaker depending on not only the order of tiles, but the strategy of the other players. So I'm going to give that one a thumbs up. Finally, unique. Is this game unique? I really like this game. It's a game I want in my collection. It's a game that I think is extremely strong. It's a game that's great for introduction. But when it comes to unique, the game is at the end of the day still just tile placement, and there are so many tile placing games. Is it an identical to this? No. But if you ask me which one I play more often, I'm going to pick Patchwork over this almost every time, because if I don't have a lot of time on my hands, I go for a Patchwork type game that's shorter. When I do have tons in my hand, I don't want me and my wife to try to play this game over some of the better game options that we now have. And I think it's comparable enough because it's still about roughly putting together, your field. In that case, you're making a quilt. In this case, you're making a city, but you're still just using these different tiles to put together whatever the game has designed. You could easily shift up what the theme is for either of these to roughly match the other. And there are other ones that kick in for this as well. You could be talking about King Domino, you could be talking about Queen Domino. There's so many tile placement games these days, and I just feel like it's not unique enough in that category. So I got to give it a thumbs down. Overall, this is without question a modern classic. This is for me one of those top 10. Hey, I'm kind of getting into board games. I want to go a step above those old school games from the 90s. What game should I choose? And I go, here's your 10 intro games that I think are going to hold up and be in your collection 10 years from now. This is on the list. And I think that everybody should play it. Everybody should buy it. Make the effort because you're going to be happy in the long run. But that's just my opinion. It's up to you guys to get out there, try this game, see if it hits for you, hits for your family, hits for your friends, hits for your game group, and figure out what you want to do. Well, it has been day 133, and we have been speaking about the game Carcassonne. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.